So the story in Mark about the final evening of Jesus' life before he's put to death on the cross is really quite a dark story. There's not many signs of hope. And really, two of the things that come out for me as I read this is when we remember that Jesus is the Lord of the universe, that he has power over everything and over everyone. And you read this story again, two things jump out to me. The first one is how cruel we are to him, and the second one is how pathetic we must have seemed. You know, it says there that this crowd comes armed with swords and clubs, and that's like you come in to arrest the Lord of Heaven with your little club. And you know, if I had a whole armor, you know, I had a massive army or a whole nuclear arsenal or something like that, and you come against me with your tiny little stick, am I going to be worried? No. And they come with their tiny, you know, their little weapons, this little group of people, and on a human level that must have been so intimidating. But to see it from the perspective Jesus is King of Heaven, it must have been so pathetic. And then he's betrayed. Again, it's both pathetic and cruel, with a kiss, by a man who he's tried to befriend, and he has befriended for the last 3 years. That he betrays him with this sign of affection, and that's the thing that marks him out. And then they take him to the place where he's accused, and again, pathetic and cruel. They can't come up with an accusation. Like, they try one thing and then another thing, and even the people that say, oh yeah, he said he was going to knock down the temple, they don't agree, and Jesus doesn't answer, because obviously all their testimonies are unreliable. He could have easily knocked them down and shown them to be false, and we know he's got away with words, but he remains silent in the face of all their false accusations. And then they ask him, are you the Messiah? And Jesus answers truthfully, I am, and one day you're going to see the Son of Man coming on the clouds of glory. And at that point they condemn him. They condemn him when he speaks truth. They accuse him of loads of false stuff, and eventually he speaks truth, and then they condemn him. And then they take him out and they beat him, and they blindfold him and they mock him. And again, the cruelty of that. And this, I don't know if you've ever seen the Narnia films, but in the Narnia films, Aslan goes to the stone table to be put to death by the White Witch, and he's an incredibly powerful, majestic sort of lion creature, and he walks through this crowd of tiny little creatures and nasty creatures mocking him and picking at him, and he does that with sort of this quiet dignity, but there's a huge sadness about it as well. And then eventually they shave his mane off, and this beautiful kind of, again, kingly mane is taken off, and he's exposed as like a giant cat in a way, and then they finally put him to death. And this is what's happening here. And why does Jesus do this? That's the question that goes through my head when I know he could have stepped out. And the answer is a really simple one. Love. He did it out of love. People do crazy things for love. God loves you, and he loves me. And so he went through this. Ponder and think about that as you read this passage again.